Hello, welcome back. Thank you, as always, for joining me today. We're going to talk about the idea of joining here in this video. And the specific backdrop for this is chapter 22, section 1 of the text. And, well, as course students, we're always invited to take a quick look at these passages, or a long and thorough look at these passages, as many times as we're called to do it over and over. And the videos that you're watching are intended as a supplement to your walk, your journey, your learning with this course. And incidentally, you don't have to be a course student in order to benefit from them. And a number of people that tune in are not. They're somehow, well, connected to this material, called to this, sometimes not even really knowing why. Maybe it's just YouTube's algorithm that suggested it. Up pops this dude, middle-aged man from Arizona in the United States. Can't get any more ordinary than that, I promise you. Right? And A Course in Miracles, what's that? Or perhaps you've been a student for a long, long time. No matter where you appear to find yourself here, there is a message for you, and the communicator of that message, the one bringing the message, is the Holy Spirit, our inner teacher. This is a pixelated image on your screen. I often say that. It's true. It's what we're looking at. It's what we're looking at anytime we look at a video. It's the content of the message that really matters, not the outward form of the deliverer. This is simply an outward form. When something lands for you, you may 100% count on the fact that that is a message from the Holy Spirit. Now, you're welcome to call the Holy Spirit whatever you want. If you're not sure what that is, that's an actually really, really, really good question. Because many of us have been raised in spiritual traditions that may have talked at length about the Holy Spirit without actually telling us what it is in truth. Well, welcome to A Course in Miracles. The Holy Spirit is part of our mind. It's part of you. You may or may not have been told that. Maybe that resonates and confirms something that you feel somehow that you've always known. Maybe. The Holy Spirit's part of our mind. We have the choice right now in the present moment to let this part of our mind guide and direct us in every situation that we find ourselves in life, in every circumstance, to direct our forgiveness, to direct our extension of love, to tell us what to do, what to say, even, and to whom, in every single circumstance in life. Here's the deal. Of course, you may call the Holy Spirit whatever you want. Even right here in A Course in Miracles, it goes by many, many different names. It's known as the Answer with a capital A, the Comforter with a capital C, the Voice for God, most commonly, Communicator, Communication Link, lots of stuff. Yeah. So you may call it Elvis, Sue, Betty, or Mike. Doesn't make any difference. It's part of our mind, and we can choose to listen to it and allow it to guide us. That's the choice that we all have right now in the present moment. And you might rightly ask, and it's Another really good question. What's in it for me? There's nothing wrong with asking that question. We're, in fact, conditioned to do it all the time. We do it in our business and economic lives. We do it in our interactions with other people where we're looking to get something. So if you're asking that question, okay, you've been conditioned. I've been conditioned. We've all been conditioned to think that way. The peace of God is in it for you. The experience of who and what you really are and where you really are, which is not this wobbling, spinning ball of rock. The peace of God is in it for you. Another way you could choose to look at this, awakening is in it for you. So, what do we do? Well, we make the choice right now, day to day, moment to moment, to listen to the guidance of our inner teacher. It sounds so simple, and it is. Now, we introduce one complication after another into our lives, so we soon find that the simplicity of this one decision is lost on us, and we think it's hard. We don't find it easy to ask the Holy Spirit for guidance and to follow its guidance. We no longer find that easy. We tell ourselves that it's hard and it's difficult, and then all of the litany of things that we go on to tell ourselves, like, I can't, I don't have time to choose for the Holy Spirit. We all have the same present moment. You just had the opportunity to choose. You've got it again now. You've got it again now. See where we're going with that. And we tell ourselves all of these things. We run off, we do life, we behave what we call normally. Sometimes it's erratic, and sometimes it's peaceful, and sometimes it's really stressful. And it's up, down, up, down. And it is this wild roller coaster ride of an experience that has us on the spiritual path in the first place, no matter whether you formulated this thought consciously or not, because at some point you realize, oh man, there's got to be another way. There's got to be something more to life, to our experience than this up, down of checking email, picking up the telephone to have somebody yell at you, running off to work, being late on a bill payment, dodging traffic on the freeway, coming home, rinse, repeat, do it all over again, yada, yada, yada. Of course, there's more to it than that. We've always known that. You have always known that. That's the Holy Spirit speaking to you. So let's talk today about an idea that the Course references throughout, and that's of joining with our brother, joining with every other living thing. There is only perfect oneness. There is no separation of any kind. We run amok here in the world believing that we're individuals, believing we're an ego, in other words, believing we're self-sustaining survival units, a term from a woman's resume in the 1990s that I picked up on then in the 1990s, thinking, hey, that's really clever. Self-sustaining survival unit. Cool. Well, that's creative. Well, it actually describes what we believe we are in the world as an ego. That's where that came from. I can't claim credit for that, but I'm using it anyway. The Holy Spirit has use for that phrase. because it typifies who and what we think we are. We think we're individual human beings, and we look with the eyes of the body what appears to be outward, and we appear to see 8 billion plus other human beings, plus constant other life forms, animals and insects and fish and microscopic life forms, and on and on and on and on. It seems like endless separation. There is no separation of any kind. Who and what we really are is, well, not separate. We're not separate from our brother. And by that, I mean every other living thing. That's a term that the Course uses. So when this pixelated image on your screen says our brother, the image is referring to every living thing. So when we look on our brother, we appear to look outside of ourselves because we've managed to convince ourselves that we're an ego, we're an individual, we're a human being, we're a body, and we appear to see other bodies. We think we're separate from our brother, and we think we're separate from God, which we are not. You do know that. And quite naturally, because we run off doing life, conditioned as we are to think we're individual self-sustaining survival units, we think we've separated from God. We have not. In truth, it's impossible. Why, would you ask, is that impossible? God is the only reality. And we, the Son of God, singular, are known as the thought of God. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. Ideas leave not their source. In other words, a famous statement from the Course. Capitalize the S. Ideas leave not their source. Where are you? Exactly. And that's where we all are, in truth, at home in God. And yet, here, on Spinning Ball of Rock, we appear to be with a litany of stuff going on. So when this course talks about joining with our brother who appears to us to be a separate individual being and who is not a separate individual being, how is this even accomplished? Well, we attempt to join with each other through the body. We attempt to join with each other through the body, through hugs, through physical closeness, through touch, through our intimate relationships. Yeah, all of that. Yet it's not actual joining. Because even in our most romantic and hot, intimate relationships, there's still a dynamic of conflict from time to time between two people who have joined often and who nonetheless still believe themselves to be separate individual beings. Real joining is not done through the body. It's done with a vision that's not of the body. That vision is the vision of the Holy Spirit, who looks past illusion to the truth of who and what we really are. So when we actually join with our brother, it's an experience that's, well, we find it impossible to describe in language. And yes, because the experience is completely outside of all of our concepts. It's outside of our terminology, like the languages that we use to communicate with one another. This oneness is communicated in a language that the body does not speak. And we know it. We recognize it instantly. We just know. I'm sure that you've had in your lifetime some experiences, maybe many experiences, where all of a sudden you just knew something, where something became instantly clear and you couldn't express it in words. Exactly. Joining is communicated in a language that the body does not speak and does not understand either. You're not a body. This is real joining. And in doing it, something very profound happens, and we're invited to see it this way in our day to day, moment to moment practice, is when we look and we appear, only appear to look outside ourselves at 8 billion plus raving, screaming human beings, sometimes loving, sometimes raving, screaming. Sometimes the same human being does one minute, the next, the other. You know, we look out and we appear to see all of this division and all of this separation. And we're invited to see in our brother a safe place where our self, capital S, self, can be reborn again in peace. Where our self, with a capital S, can be reborn in safety and in peace. We see our brother as ourself. Love thy neighbor as thyself. He is yourself. Mm, yeah. And because these videos are for everyone, that may or may not be the first time that you've heard this. But we all know that real joining, real communication, in other words, is beyond language. We're simply using this convention of language to communicate with one another through this medium called the internet, through this particular platform known as YouTube, through this particular channel, and on and on. True communication, true joining is beyond language completely. The experience, in other words, knowledge of who, what, and where we are, is beyond all of our concepts, all of them. Yet we simply know. And when you get glimpses of it, you know. Perhaps you've had many of them, and I know that some of you have. You just know. And what happens when you have that, well, is eventually, whether it's the very next second or a day later or a week later or a month later or whatever interval of time appears to pop up there, we find ourselves back in the world of email and paying bills and things. But the experience stays with us. And we no longer see our day to day lives the same way. That's powerful. It's powerful because circumstances still may come up that we find stressful. They may come up and we don't see them the same way. We recognize what's beyond or behind the illusion, beyond what's taking place on the surface, which could be a very stressful situation. Guess what? You may find that it no longer stresses you the same way, and that you have a gap, so to speak, an interval in time between a stressor, say a nasty negative boss, who's critical and demanding and doesn't like you, for example. Yeah? And that stressor happens. And it no longer affects you the same way. Doesn't mean that you sit there and put up with it, but you don't see it the same way. So it does not cause you to fly off the handle if that's what you did before. It doesn't cause you to rush to judgment of this person like you may have done before. And that's simply one example. But after these experiences, we all return to the world of email and cleaning house, life. Yeah. And the events that we're going to experience here are going to come up, but we don't see them the same way. We don't have to see them the same way. And another way of looking at this choice for the Holy Spirit instead of the ego right now is we can choose who we want to watch this movie with. We can choose whether we want the Holy Spirit to guide us or the ego, and we have allowed the ego to guide us for far too long. And that's why we're here, interested in spirituality. Again, we've heard the call of the Holy Spirit, which is universal and goes out to all of us all of the time. You've answered it. So for that, I thank you. And you've answered it more than once. Again, I thank you for that. Because something has led you here to this course. There are no accidents at all. So, to the extent that you have questions about this or any other topics here in A Course in Miracles, I'm happy to do what I can to answer those. The comment thread here is designed to be a place of dialogue for us because spirituality, after all, is self inquiry. It is. It's all about that. And it's deep self inquiry, especially if you're honest with yourself and really, really do it. So if you have questions, please feel welcome to leave them. I do take a look at the comment thread frequently, so I will see them. And even if you would simply like to pop in and say hello, I'd love to hear from you. This is an international community, so join us too if you have not already. That's the subscription prompt here in the corner of your screen. Just click that icon, subscribe, join us. Several videos appear each week, and I thank you all for your dedication and commitment to practice here, which is what has you watching in the first place. That's huge, and I appreciate it. All right. Thank you for joining me.